All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Got a whole new episode of, oh boy, what did Craig Wright done do now? So, it's been a while since I made a video. The background is different. It may sound a little bit different because I don't even have my pop filter on my microphone. I've been quite busy, and I don't quite have the background in various situations to make videos as well these days. But I'm still trying, and I have no intention to stop or anything like that. It's just circumstance. But I've been getting a lot of messages. Hey, have you seen the Craig Wright verdict? Have you seen Craig Wright? Have you been keeping up? We need another episode of, oh boy, what did Craig Wright do now? So, first of all, I want you guys to all remember, whether you're a fan of Craig Wright and you think he's Satoshi, or whether you don't like Craig Wright and you're not a fan and you don't think he's Satoshi, I'm sort of in the middle. It hasn't really actually been proven that Craig Wright is not Satoshi, and it hasn't been proven that he is Satoshi. However, this particular court case is about 1.1 million Bitcoin that were allegedly mined by Craig Wright and Dave Kleiman, an old business associate of his. He's also a Satoshi candidate, although kind of on the lower end of Satoshi candidates, but Dave Kleiman is indeed a Satoshi candidate, along with Craig Wright as well. So it kind of makes sense that we consider that Satoshi has mined 1 million Bitcoin, and that coincidentally, Craig Wright and Dave Kleiman mined 1 million Bitcoin. So that's a little bit of a kind of a weird thing, but it doesn't prove anything and it doesn't disprove anything. It merely just states that somebody has 1.1 million Bitcoin, and there was a tulip trust. So this court case is not about if Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto. Nowhere in anything in the files of this court case does it matter if Craig Wright is or is not Satoshi Nakamoto. The court case is about the Kleiman family discovering the Tulip Trust document, which nobody can confirm is even real in the first place or even why it exists, and was like, hey, you owe Dave Kleiman, our brother, our family member, 1.1 million Bitcoin. Craig Wright says, nope, I don't. And apparently the jury found in favor of Craig Wright, so it is all his Bitcoin. Interestingly, Craig Wright sort of just posted a ton of different addresses to the court as evidence that he has 1.1 million Bitcoin, or that this 1.1 million Bitcoin exists. Now, what you also got to remember, too, is that was a whole bunch of arbitrary addresses with various amounts of Bitcoin that he submitted. So many of them, it equals upwards of 1 million plus Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that he has control of them, has the keys to them. Anybody can go into the Block Explorer and type in a public key, or go all the way back to addresses and find old wallets that have Bitcoin in them, and you could just arbitrarily accumulate them to 1 million and then submit them to somebody and say, yes, these are mine. But that doesn't mean that they're yours. They're public addresses. That's what Bitcoin is about, and anybody with the will or the know-how to do that can go ahead and do that, but that doesn't mean that you own them. That's not how Bitcoin works. So now we have this 1 million Bitcoin that was supposedly given to Craig Wright for a short period of time, and it was supposed to go back. Craig Wright says that the addresses were split among a bunch of different people using encryption software, and that there was supposed to be somebody to come and deliver them, I guess. I can't think of the word right now. It's been a while since I made a video. I guess I'm a little out of it. But that is that. So, guys, remember, the court case is not about him being Satoshi, because some people are like, oh, man, they say he's Satoshi. No, he isn't. It hasn't been proven. You have to prove it. All right, now we're going to see that maybe Craig Wright has this Bitcoin, and now he's going to spend it because the court case is over, or maybe he still can't because he doesn't have the private keys to it. It is alleged, too, that there's this conspiracy that Dave Kleiman may have been Satoshi or has mined 1 million Bitcoin, and when he died, somebody came and took his things. And even Craig Wright had called Dave Kleiman's father and said, hey, I need those computers computers, search for a wallet.dat file, etc., etc. There was that whole thing. I don't know if that is actually proven or not, but there was sort of a conspiracy that he had gotten a hold of the Kleiman family afterwards and said, give me these computers. So that would mean that he has all these hard drives that are indeed encrypted by Dave Kleiman, who is very much into encryption and is likely running his company N-Chain and is using a bunch of hash power and a bunch of computer power to try to break these encrypted hard drives that allegedly has this. So again, it's not clear who actually has 1 million Bitcoin. It's not clear that Dave Kleiman had it. It's not clear that Craig Wright had it. There was a bunch of arbitrary addresses submitted. It is not about him being Satoshi or not. The court case is about this 1 million Bitcoin, whether it's owed to the Kleiman family or not. And even still, even if it was owed to the Kleiman family, who has the private keys to this? Where are they? Nobody knows. So again, none of this can be proven. But why is all this information out there? I don't know. That's why it's sort of in the middle, and you kind of have to remain slightly in the middle about this whole thing, is because why is there a document in the first place? Why was this agreement over 1 million Bitcoin? Did they actually mine this? Do they actually have the private keys to this? Et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't mean that he's Satoshi. So a man is claimed to be the inventor of Bitcoin, just won a major U.S. court case, saving him from paying a former business partner tens of billions of dollars in crypto. Australian computer scientist Craig Wright implied in a 2016 blog post that he was Satoshi, the pseudonym used by the person or person who developed Bitcoin. So again, during this trial, it had nothing to do with him being Satoshi. Even if he is Satoshi, it still doesn't have anything to do with the trial, because basically the trial is asking the question: does Dave Kleiman's family deserve this 1 million Bitcoin legally? So I think Craig Wright, either if he is Satoshi, he was using this to try to come out. And if he is not Satoshi, he is using this to try to up his status and his BSV, Bitcoin SV blockchain, et cetera, et cetera. And so it would be like you or me or something like that going to court, and we owe somebody a bunch of money and we want to become famous while we're doing it. So I would start to proclaim that I am something connected to this money that I can't really prove. And then everybody, so you would naturally get about 50% of people believing you and 50% of people disbelieving you. And that could further your career along the way. If you've ever seen the documentary, Don't Mess with Cats, there was a guy in there who did some bad things, but he would also claim that he was involved with certain people, et cetera, when there was no proof of that at all. But because he did that, he got more famous because of it. So that's all you have to do, is to say, yeah, I'm Satoshi. And some people are going to believe you, but the people that are going to believe you are just believing you on faith and faith alone, because there is no proof that you are. You haven't moved any of the Bitcoin. You haven't shown it, anything like that. So on Monday, Wright prevailed in a Miami civil case that pitted him against the family of his late business partner and computer forensics expert Dave Kleiman. Stake was 1.1 million Bitcoin and held in a Satoshi Cash, currently worth about $54 billion. So it's not 1.1 million in Bitcoin, it is 1.1 million Bitcoin. And that is the amount that allegedly, due to the Potoshi pattern, this one particular scientist who took a look at the initial mining patterns and nonce patterns of initial miners in the beginning. And it's pretty clear that Satoshi likely mined around 1 million Bitcoin himself. And so this is quite coincidental that it's 1.1 million Bitcoin, but it still doesn't prove anything. That's the problem. Are you going to go on faith, or are you not going to go on faith? And the whole point of Bitcoin is not faith. It is mathematics and proof. So if you believe in the faith that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto, you're either doing it because you're holding some bags that are associated with that, or you're just going on pure faith, and then you really don't get Bitcoin. You just don't get Bitcoin in that sense, because it's all about proof. And I either have the keys or I do not have the keys to my Bitcoin, and I can either move my Bitcoin or I can't, or I can show you that I gave the network keys to Gavin and Drayson, et cetera, et cetera. There's a number of ways that Satoshi can prove who he is. My argument is that Satoshi Nakamoto is dead. I think he was one of two people. I think he was either I think Lars Sossaman, or etc. But just basically, it's likely that Satoshi is not with us, in my opinion. The prosecution argued that Kleiman was a co-creator of Bitcoin alongside Wright, entitling himself to half of Satoshi's assumed fortune. A federal jury in West Palm Beach sided with Wright and declined to award any of the Bitcoin to Kleiman's estate. So, another reason that Craig Wright could have assumed the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto is because he knew this was coming. He knew that there is 1.1 million Bitcoin, and he knows that he has 1.1 million Bitcoin, and perhaps he does have the private keys, or perhaps he isn't trying to decrypt the hard drives that contain these private keys, and he knows that he's going to get to them sooner or later. And if with the legal trouble in the way, he's not really actually going to be able to spend this Bitcoin, but now that it's over, he can, right? And if he claims and he tries to convince a jury that he is Satoshi Nakamoto, and that's all you have to do is convince the jury that you're Satoshi Nakamoto. Even though that's not the basis of the trial, people would be like, wait, so he says he's the creator of Bitcoin, so it's all his, right? And so that would help you win a trial. It really would. I mean, if you have 10 or 12 people who know nothing about Bitcoin, and you're proclaiming the entire time, look, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto, and you're trying to prove it in court, even though you're trying to prove that this Bitcoin is yours, and it really doesn't have anything to do if you're Satoshi or not. I could have invented Bitcoin and then borrowed some Bitcoin from somebody or something like that, and I clearly owe it to them via this document. That doesn't mean that it's mine just because I created Bitcoin. I borrowed cash money from somebody, essentially, which is Bitcoin, and I have to give it back. However, the court decided that he does not. So that could be one reason why Satoshi is why Craig Wright is trying to claim to be Satoshi, because he knows that he will or can have access to this 1 million Bitcoin. And it's better that he wins the court case so that he can actually spend it without the authorities on his back, because trying to spend $54 billion, well, somebody's going to see that. But that's all I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will continue to make videos in the future. It's just right now I'm a little bit busy. I'm kind of moving to a new place. I just got out of the place in Pittsburgh. I've moved to sort of a hometown of mine. And I'm still, doing a whole bunch of stuff in the process. But I hope that clears up this court case for you guys a little bit. No, the court did not determine that he is Satoshi Nakamoto. It's not proven at all. It's just he probably used that in his defense of this 1 million Bitcoin. The court is only about the 1.1 million Bitcoin, and Kleiman estate are not getting it, period. So it is, if it actually does exist, it is now Craig Wright's. That's all. That's what this means. But hope you enjoyed it. As usual, I'll see you guys next time.